into the Great Lakes and into the northern Rockies. Your 40s, you can see the roller coaster ride you'll have with that today. And a chance of increasing cloud cover in the southeast and possibly a mixed bag of precipitation coming up tomorrow morning. 60s and 70s will be found in Southern California and also in southern Arizona. Southern Texas likewise getting into the 70s regime. We're watching a big storm moving to the Pacific Northwest. We'll talk about that and the complete national weather forecast in just a few moments on Daybreak Saturday.
This is CNN, a service of Turner Broadcasting System.
Winter snows come to the Northeast on the heels of a major East Coast winter storm.
This is Daybreak Saturday on CNN for January 3rd, 1987, with Sasha Fu in Atlanta.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Sasha Fu. We'll look at what happened when winter blasted the Northeast in just a moment, but first, this just in. All 51 people aboard a Brazilian airliner were believed killed early today when the plane crashed in the West African state of Ivory Coast. The plane's crew reported engine trouble soon after takeoff from Africa on a flight home to Rio de Janeiro. Rescue teams are en route to the scene. And in this country, at least 15 deaths are being blamed in a fierce winter storm that has lashed the East Coast from the Carolinas all the way to Maine. The classic northeaster has dumped more than a foot and a half of snow in Maine. Winds gusted more than 70 miles an hour. Residents had to be evacuated from several New England coastal towns. Tidal flooding in the Carolinas and Virginia has caused about $16 million in damage. CNN's Mark Leff has more on the storm.
The Boston area bore much of the brunt of the storm. There was concern the seawall at Nantasket Beach wouldn't stand up to the pounding. It didn't in the blizzard of 1978, but did this time.
We were frightened. When the wall started caving in, I said, if it keeps going, the house is gone, because where there's no basement, it's only got like 4 more feet below the soil to go, and that's it.
I'm concerned for the windows and stuff like that when I hear the windows get hit. Oh, there you go.
Area residents emerged wet, but spared the words. Police in many coastal communities had urged people to seek shelter further inland. A few did, but most decided to tough it out.
We're not leaving.
The problem along the East Coast wasn't just the storm. It was compounded by an extremely rare lineup of the sun, the moon, and the earth, which was already making high tides higher than usual. Along hundreds of miles of coastline, the combination pushed the Atlantic well onshore. Early Friday morning, residents and casino owners in Atlantic City, New Jersey, were bracing for the big one. The gamble was just when the storm would hit, but the gamblers were able to keep doing their thing. John Hayes of NOAA tracked it by computer.
The scatter here shows that the storm hit with quite a bit of gusto as it hit the coast, and was actually about 3 feet above the low tide. If this had occurred at the high, it would have even been worse than what we're actually observing.
Even at low tide, the storm flooded many streets in South Jersey and briefly cut Atlantic City off from the mainland. Parts of New York City were underwater early in the day, and some fairly exclusive real estate on nearby Long Island became a lot more exclusive when the storm removed any way in or out. One summer house, which had been evacuated about 6 weeks ago, finally collapsed, but nobody was around, so nobody was hurt. By late afternoon, the rain in New York City had turned to snow, making going home time a challenge on the first working day of the new year. But that was nothing compared to what many travelers in Boston had been dealing with since morning. Snow is dusting much of the Northeast, keeping plowmen busy.
I've plowed about 50 driveways so far. I'm just going to wait out the rest of the storm and then go and clean them up.
And keeping kids happy.
I love it.
And mountain areas may get up to 2 feet before the storm is over. Mark Leff, CNN, reporting.
Well, the storm is presently heading away from the United States toward Canadian waters, and CNN's Steve Kosch will be along with more on the storm's progress later on in this broadcast. The death toll now stands at 95 in the New Year's Eve hotel fire in San Juan, Puerto Rico. Authorities believe the fire may have been deliberately set, and the investigation so far has focused on labor relations at the DuPont Plaza Hotel. CNN's John Zarella reports on the union at the center of the probe.
The Teamsters Union Local in Puerto Rico has been dealing with a tainted reputation for many years. The union is now the focus of attention in the New Year's Eve fire at the DuPont Plaza Hotel. Police and eyewitnesses say the fire began just minutes after a 1.5-hour union meeting broke up at the DuPont Plaza. During that meeting, union members voted to reject the hotel management's offer for a new contract. The union's president, Rene Rodriguez, says there is no way his people are responsible for the fire.
Our position is, and we hope that this is an accident, because only a mentally insane, only a crazy guy will do something like what happened in the DuPont Plaza on last Wednesday.
The union's secretary-treasurer, Jose Cadiz, says the union is offering a $15,000 reward for information leading to the arrest of whomever is responsible for the fire if it was arson. Cadiz took over the union leadership in 1980 and has tried to restore some of its credibility. Before that, it was often being accused of violent behavior during labor negotiations and strikes. As the negotiations at the DuPont Plaza dragged on, the union ran a radio commercial saying that New Year's Eve at the hotel would not be pleasant. Cadiz says the commercial was in no way intimating that there would be violence.
Why you not put in the radio a couple of weeks before something when you say, well, is there the company, to make a pressure to the company?
But the union's bad image is also linked to its association with Teamster attorney Jorge Farinacci. He, along with several others, is under federal indictment for a $7 million Wells Fargo robbery in Connecticut in 1983. Federal authorities have tied that robbery to a Puerto Rican terrorist group known as the Macheteros. Out on bond, Farinacci participated in the Teamsters negotiations with the DuPont Plaza. John Zarella, CNN, San Juan, Puerto Rico.
A small fire has forced officials to shut down one reactor at the Diablo Canyon nuclear power plant in California. Officials say no radiation was released. The smoky fire last night began when lubricating oil dripped onto a hot pipe in the turbine room. Pacific Gas and Electric immediately shut down the plant's Unit 1 reactor and notified the Nuclear Regulatory Commission. Both the company and the NRC described the incident at Diablo Canyon as minor. President Reagan will sign a record $1 trillion budget proposal today, but White House officials admit the massive spending plan is likely doomed even before it reaches the mostly Democratic Congress next week. The president is expected to use his weekly Saturday radio address to focus on his fiscal blueprint. Sources say the new plan puts military spending ahead of domestic needs. It also proposes deep cuts in farm aid and social programs. The president reportedly recommends spending nearly $400 billion on defense over the next 5 years. Conservative and liberal activists have formed an unlikely united front. They are opposed to proposed hikes in federal pay. A special federal panel recommends big salary raises for cabinet members, members of Congress, and others. CNN's John Hullerman reports on the controversy.
It's the first issue to bring together liberal consumer activist Ralph Nader and conservative activist Paul Weyrich. The question of raises for Congress and other top-level government workers is one of the most difficult faced by lawmakers. But big raises have always been voted down by Congress.
It is evident from talking to the members of Congress of both parties that the leadership of both parties is determined to get this pay increase through in such a way that the members can avoid responsibility for it.
If President Reagan approves the raises, which he is expected to do on Monday, and Congress does nothing, they automatically become law. Nader objects to
the unconstitutionalities of process and the sneaky backdoor way of getting these salary increases. Second, that the recommendations were outrageous.
The Presidential Commission would give House and Senate members a raise of almost 60% to $130,000 a year. Cabinet members would see their pay go up 55% to $160,000 a year. And federal judges would get a minimum of $110,000, up from their current salary of $70,500. Supporters of the increase for judges, including Chief Justice William Rehnquist, say better qualified people would be attracted to the higher-paying jobs. Bruce Fine screened judicial candidates for the Reagan administration.
Salary played a role in the decisions of several nominees. I would say of all of the persons that I interviewed who we were seriously considering for judgeships, maybe 5 to 10% voiced some concern about the salary depression.
Budget Director Miller says the president has not yet decided what to do about the commission's recommendation, but opponents say they're planning a court fight if the raises go through, and they're urging people to write their representatives in protest. John Holloman, CNN, Capitol Hill.
The new year brings with it new freedoms for small businesses in the Soviet Union. As CNN's Peter Arnett reports, the Kremlin is legalizing what has for years been part of the Soviet underground economy.
This is the sound of potentially dramatic change in the Soviet Union, the sound of private enterprise. Small car repair shops such as this one in Moscow's outskirts and other individual activities from taxi driving to tailoring have existed for years in the nation's underground economy. But in the coming year, all will be legalized. It is the most significant shift away from state control of the service sector of the economy since World War II. And it is an indication that Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev, in office 20 months now, is willing to continue taking his country down the path of reform. Gorbachev has made some dramatic moves in Soviet foreign policy since he took power, but it is towards domestic economic vitality that his main activities are directed. He has frequently called for more local initiatives and more worker incentives to get the stagnant economy moving. Gorbachev has been able to streamline a number of key ministries, and rules on foreign trade have been relaxed in the hope of boosting exports and of attracting partners in joint ventures. No one expects any substantial dismantling of the system of central economic planning, but Gorbachev's initiatives so far are an indication that he's prepared to push further than his predecessors in seeking change. The Soviet leaders' programs have been initially greeted with excitement, but some are wondering impatiently how far they will really go.
He was bold enough to start from scratch some things which are very healthy for our life, social life, economic life, and that's why I think people in my country support him. It's just the beginning of the changes, and some people are dissatisfied. They want more and soon. And I think it's quite understandable from the human point of view.
Car repairman Alexander Surkov is delighted that under the new regulations, he can pursue his business legally.
I think the new law is very updated, and we hope that it can help us to work.
Alexander said there are hundreds of similar repair shops in Moscow, all needed to compensate for the state's inability to provide basic services. Foreign observers believe that while the economic changes so far are minor, Soviet leader Gorbachev has the will and the means to make eventual, far-reaching changes. Peter Arnett, CNN, Moscow.
This is CNN, a service of Turner Broadcasting System.
Mother Nature socks the Northeast with a 1-2 punch. While unusually high tides along the coast send many looking for higher ground, the higher ground is being covered by more and more snow. Good morning, I'm Patrick Greenlaw with a look at the hour's top stories. The first snowstorm of the new year is finally moving out to sea, but it will be one New England residents will remember for many years to come. High tides caused by a rare alignment of the sun, the moon, and the earth threatened homes from Maine to New Jersey yesterday. Many people were able to evacuate rather than face the onrushing tides. Meanwhile, heavy snow inland dumped up to 20 inches in some parts of the region. At least 16 deaths are being blamed on the storm since it started over the southeast earlier this week. Not only is there a lot of snow, but with the accompanying high winds, a lot of drifting snow. And for the latest on that and all the travelers' advisories, let's check in once again with Steve Kosch. Steve? Patrick, right you are. This is what we call the dig-out day, and of course, everybody's car is just about buried in the Northeast, particularly in the state of Maine, where upwards of 2 feet of snow has been reported in some isolated areas, but fairly substantial snowfall all through the Northeast. Continues to snow very, very lightly right now in areas of the Northeast, from Boston to New York City. Here is the storm itself. It's off the Maine coast, continuing to move in a northeasterly fashion. Close in, if you will, on the Northeast. The radar and the satellite picture does show the snow continuing in that light fashion there. And it will turn to flurries later in the day as we see less and less of the storm influence on that area. We look at the traveler's advisories that we have in effect. We do not have any winter storm watches or warnings or advisories, for that matter, for the Northeast, but I am just saying that there's a lot of snowy roads, and the road crews, of course, are going to be out there, but with so many roads to uncover, it's going to be slow going, so be extra careful there. We do have travelers' advisories down to the south. Interstate 40 and 44 will have some problems because of snow, sleet this morning. We are seeing another storm that's moving out of the Rockies, dip down into the Gulf of Mexico, and this is where the advisories are found right now, travelers' advisories in those areas for the snow. Also, areas of snow will be found here in the Cascade Mountains of Oregon and Washington today, just to the east of Interstate 5. If you're traveling across the area, be look out for Interstate 90, Interstate 80 north, Interstate 80 across Nevada. We'll see some rough going. And then Interstate 5 north of Redding, California, traveler's advisory because of poor visibility, because of fog and the snow and the rain and the wind. What a bad combination. We have winter storm warnings in effect. The northern Shastas, the Siskiyou Mountains there of Northern California, the Sierra Nevada mountain range, the winter storm warning in effect there. Winter storm watch, the central and the eastern sections of the state of Nevada, and then the southern California mountains for later this evening, as that front will be moving in a southerly direction, bringing in the snow for the mountains there. So it's quite a busy weather weekend here at CNN and all across the country. Patrick.
Okay, Steve, thank you. A chartered ski tour bus overturned early today on a snow-slickened road in Marcellus, New York, and was struck by 2 other vehicles. One bus passenger was killed and all 46 others were injured. Police say the bus was carrying the group from Philadelphia to ski slopes near Auburn, New York. Police say the bus driver apparently lost control on the road, slickened by yesterday's fierce snowstorm in the Northeast. In the South Pacific, a hurricane packing winds up to 90 miles an hour hit the Cook Islands today. Many homes, roads, and resorts were reportedly destroyed. The Cook Islands are located about 2,000 miles northeast of Auckland, New Zealand. There were no immediate reports of any casualties, but a local radio station estimates damage at $15 million. As many as 1,000 people are said to be homeless. A Brazilian airliner crashed after takeoff in the Ivory Coast today, killing at least 49 people. There are reports 2 of the 51 people aboard survived. Airport officials in the West African country say the pilot had reported an engine fire and radioed he would turn around to make an emergency landing. 2 Americans were reportedly aboard that plane. The death toll from the fire at the DuPont Plaza Hotel in San Juan now stands at 95. Officials say they hope that is a final total. But searchers will enter the building again today to make sure they've found everyone killed in the New Year's Eve explosions and fire. Meanwhile, the investigation is continuing into what caused the disaster. Arson has still not been ruled out. Meanwhile, the head of the Casino Employees Union at the hotel says management was partly to blame for the high death toll. He says more people would have been able to escape if some doors had not been locked. President and Mrs. Reagan have arrived back in Washington from their New Year's holiday in California. The first couple flew to the nation's capital yesterday, following a traditional New Year's Eve party in Palm Springs with friends. Mr. Reagan is expected to sign the country's first $1 trillion budget proposal later today. Tomorrow, he enters the Bethesda Naval Hospital in Maryland to prepare for prostate surgery. Last night, he told a national TV audience the operation will be a breeze. Coming up, a woman in Los Angeles who answers an ad for a live-in maid disappears, along with the infant son of the couple.
This is CNN, a service of Turner Broadcasting System.
The death toll now stands at 49 in the crash of a Brazilian passenger jet in the Ivory Coast today. Coming up on Newswatch Saturday, we'll bring you details. Hello from Atlanta, I'm Rick Moore.
And hello from Washington, I'm David French. Investigators in Puerto Rico think the death toll from that New Year's Eve hotel fire will stand at 95. But as CNN's Tom Mintier reports, there are new developments on the cause of the fatal fire.
Until now, most of the investigation of the fire at the DuPont Plaza Hotel has centered around a union meeting that broke up just before the blaze broke out. But Saturday morning, Puerto Rico Governor Hernandez Colon dropped a bomb of his own. He revealed during an interview with CNN that security employees of the hotel are now being investigated.
This investigation is looking at the possibility that the violence may have come from either side, either from the union, hotel security personnel, or other people involved in that labor conflict.
Is the investigation looking into the possibility that the fire may have been set by hotel security guards to break a strike?
Also, yes.
But Bruce Schulman, the director of the DuPont Plaza, was not aware of the governor's admission that hotel security forces are under investigation.
Did the security personnel set the fire at the hotel or in any way involved as a way of breaking the union?
None whatsoever.
How can you be sure of that?
I can't imagine that the security personnel of our hotel involved in anything like that. I mean, our security personnel has been working for the hotel for a long time, and definitely not.
Schulman says he hasn't been informed that his employees are under investigation in connection with the fire. On the day of the fire, about 2 hours before it broke out, police now say they received a phone call from a man who called himself Santiago. It was a warning.
The man said that there was a bomb on the DuPont and identified himself as Santiago. That's all. I don't think that he talked too much.
Did you have a recording of that telephone call?
No. That's a recording.
2 officers were sent to the DuPont Plaza Hotel, but they never searched for a bomb.
Somebody from the security department told them that everything was okay, that everything was normal, that there was no bomb.
But the director of the DuPont Plaza has a different version of that story. He says a Mr. Santiago worked at the front desk. Police asked if he called about the bomb, and he said no. But a hotel spokesman standing next to Schulman says a small explosion did occur while the police were at the hotel.
They, in fact, were in the lobby of the hotel at the time. A cherry bomb went off. They went to inspect it. They found out it was a cherry bomb. And after that, the police, without saying any other thing to Santiago, left the building.
Puerto Rican Governor Colon says there is precedent to question the hotel security guards. He says in other labor management feuds on the island, not involving hotels, criminal acts were found to be committed by security forces hired to allegedly eliminate the unions. The new revelations may indicate that the victims of the hotel fire were not the target of vengeance, but may have simply been caught in a tragic crossfire. Tom Mintier, CNN, San Juan, Puerto Rico.
Officials in San Juan have now positively identified 38 of the fire victims. They're urging relatives to go to the hospital to help identify the others. CNN's Jan Fisher has more.
The scene at the DuPont Plaza Hotel is quiet now. The grim task of searching through the rubble for bodies has all but ended. The parking lot is empty. Gone are the hearses to carry away the dead and the ambulances that were stationed nearby in the hopes of finding more survivors. It appears the death toll will stand firm at 95, most of them Americans. At the San Juan Medical Center, teams of pathologists are working round the clock in efforts to identify the dead. Fingerprints and dental x-rays are being compared. It's a long process that takes time, too much time, for family and friends anxious for information that will end the waiting. Relatives gather here in this room for counseling with priests and psychiatrists.
We're here to help people go through the normal stages of grief and to make sure that if someone has any variance in the way they deal with the grief, then we're here to help them.
Most of the injured have been released from the hospital. Of the ones that remain, only a few are listed as critical, and none of those are thought to be in danger of dying.
The rest of the 17, including 4 additional, or 5 that had burns, they are all in a stable condition, and we hope and pray that they are going to recuperate from their condition.
Jan Fisher, CNN, San Juan, Puerto Rico.
2 of the people who died in the fire were friends from Canada who had gone to San Juan to escape the cold, they said. They were 2 women
who had led relatively quiet lives. Alan Garr reports from Toronto.
Gene Fogel and Lily Snyder were the best of friends. They were both in their 40s, both were single. Jean lived with her nephew. Both lived on the same street, just across the road from each other. Gene Fogel worked at the same Toronto brokerage firm for 28 years. They considered her part of the family. Her friend Lily Snyder taught grade 3 students at a public school. December 18th was her last day before Christmas break. For the past half-dozen years, Gene Fogel and Lily Snyder had been traveling buddies. It was part of their routine. Like many ordinary Canadians, they like to escape winter. This time they planned a trip to Puerto Rico. Nothing exotic, board-air charter flight, luxury hotel, safe and warm. Then the fire on New Year's Eve, and the news reached home.
You're so close and you're so far away because you're sitting here and you're getting the images in from this box that's telling you, information from far away, but you're sitting here trying to process it and deal with the fact that you've lost something that's really important to you. And but it's so far away that it's just so hard to deal with it.
Gene Fogel and Lily Snyder, best friends and traveling companions, died together, trapped in the hotel elevator. Alan Garr, CBC News, Toronto.
A Brazilian airliner with 51 people aboard crashed in a dense rainforest in West Africa today. Officials say 49 died in the crash, including one American. The plane had taken off from an airport in the Ivory Coast when the pilot reported his engine was on fire. A French doctor at the crash site said the 2 badly burned survivors were taken to nearby hospitals. U.S. Embassy officials described the scene as devastating. Brazilian officials have left the site to try to determine the cause of the crash.
Still to come, we'll take a look at the agenda of congressional hearings on the Iran arms controversy, and we'll talk with a political scientist who says the American public and the media sometimes give American leaders enough power to step above the law. Stay with us.
Right now.